go ahead and start, Nicole. Well, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone tonight. I'd like to welcome all parents, community members, staff members, whoever you might be. I wanted to have an opportunity to welcome you tonight. I appreciate you being here. So it's been several weeks now that we tried to put together and work a plan to try with a focus of trying to reopen school for our students. We're working collaboratively with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the State Department of Health, the Department of Labor and Industries, and most closely with the Yakima Health District. We've been working, trying to put a plan together, a way that we can get students safely, I emphasize, back into school, starting with our students with the highest level of needs. And today, our Developmental Learning Center students and preschool students started back to school at different sites today. I was driving to work today, and it was nice to see the high school had a big welcome sign out in front, and music, and teachers and paraeducators were welcoming Developmental Learning Center students back to school. So it was really nice to see. I want to go ahead and introduce our panel tonight. I'm Mike Brophy. I'm the superintendent here. Jeremy Cox is webinar host. I would like to also say that Minerva Pardo is our family engagement coordinator. Alyssa Kidder is not here tonight. That is Mary Lou Sheen, who is the middle school nurse and is serving tonight as our head nurse. Angela Von Essen is assistant superintendent for business and operations and represents all of the facilities, transportation, child nutrition, all those different operational departments. Ben McMurray is our high school principal. Dave Jager is a school board member. Eva Lust is the principal of Summit View Elementary. Heidi Sutton is the principal of Apple Valley Elementary. Jamie Schmidt is our transportation director. Jasenia Larios is here to help Minerva with translating tonight with our family engagement group. Lucas Jager is our special services coordinator. Mark Strong is a school board member. Melissa Robertson is a school board member. Michael Thorner is a school board member. Mike Meyer is a school board member. Nick Hartman is the principal at Mountain View Elementary. Peter Finch is assistant superintendent for learning and teaching. Randy Sowers is director of our human resources director. Richard Pryor is the principal of Tanham Elementary. Russ Tuman is the principal of the West Valley Middle Level Campus. Stacy Drake is the principal of Cottonwood Elementary. Stephanie Smith is the administrative assistant here at the district office and the West Valley School District Communications. And our host this evening is Nicole Donegan. We got a big group in the panel, and the reason we wanted such a large group is that if there are questions that are district questions, that's great. But if there are questions that are specific to a certain school or site, we wanted to have somebody here who could help you out. So Nicole, with that, why don't we go ahead and have you start it out tonight? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Nicole Donegan. I've been working with the district for several years now on the periphery, but at the same time, I am also a West Valley parent. My son graduated in the COVID graduation this spring. So I understand how emotional the situation is and how frustrating it can be. So we're hoping tonight to start talking through some of the conversations that have been had around bringing back students. And we are going to share a draft plan that is going to be presented to the school board on Monday night. And we're going to just kind of walk through where we're at right now and try to help people understand kind of what the plan is at this point. There are some things that are still unknown, but we'll try to be as open as we can about where we're at right now and the decisions that are being made. I just want to thank everybody in being on in some of these meetings. I just want to say how excellent the administrators and the teachers have been, and how patient they've been, and how much they respect and are grateful to the parents and everything that they're doing as well. The teachers are doing a great job. The parents are doing a great job. This is just a really tough situation. Before we started in the plan itself, I want to go through kind of what's happening on the screen and how you can participate in this meeting tonight. So we have two different ways that you can communicate. We have the Q&A button. And the Q&A button, if you send in a question, it is going directly to the panel. And the panel is going to be trying to watch that as best they can and trying to answer your questions as we're going through the plan. So if questions come up while we're reviewing the plan, please feel free to put those up. As soon as the question is answered, it will go live so that everyone can see the question and the answer. That is also tied to your email address. So if there is a question that we can't answer at this point, we do have your email address and we're planning on following up as soon as we have those answers to those questions. So feel free to use that throughout. When we're done going over the plan, we will go to the live questions. So if you put your hand up, we will be calling on folks along that panel with their hands up. I do need you to have your name, full name, so that we know who we're calling on. It's hard to call on initials or nicknames. So if you have your hand up but don't have your name, I'm not going to be able to call on you. So I'd really appreciate if you could have your full name up on the list if you're going to ask a question with your hand up. So right now, Jeremy's going to share the plan here briefly. The other thing is that we're going to be talking, we're scheduled to talk until 9 o'clock. We may be able to go a little bit over. We'll see how the meeting goes. But if we get to the end of the meeting and your question has not been answered, please put it into the question and answer so that we can follow up with an email and let you know the answers. I think that's pretty much the main pieces we'll be talking about tonight. The first thing we're going to do is kind of go through the plan. Here it is. And can we go to the summary, Jeremy? I'm going to start off with the main question, which is, why are we considering doing this now? What is leading to this decision? And I'm going to start out first, and I'm going to turn over to Mary Lou from our nursing department, and she's going to explain the work that they've been doing with the health district to try to come up with a plan and where the health district stands right now on why they're allowing Yakima schools to open. So Mary Lou?
Hi, yes. Well, we've been working with the health district actually since August and have been in close contact with them. They have weekly meetings with the nurses. And the Yakima Health District on Monday decided that schools could begin a gradual process of reopening. That we've reached a point in our cases where they feel that we're plateaued and we're actually sort of gradually going down, and they don't want to hold back school anymore because we've done so well in bringing our case count down.
Mary Lou, there was also, they had mentioned that the outbreaks that we're currently having now that are kind of driving the numbers are more situational outbreaks and not seeing as widespread community spread. Is that
Correct.
true?
Correct. Yeah, they are saying that the most of the numbers and case counts are actually coming from long-term care facilities and other congregate settings. And they're feeling that the case counts in the community are low enough that we can go ahead and start school, that most of the cases are elsewhere and not community spread.
Thank you, Mary Lou. So one of the reasons is because the health district has deemed that we are in a safe place to start reopening schools. And so the secondary piece of this from the district's perspective is the educational needs right now of students. So Mike, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I would. Thank you very much, Nicole. You know, one of the things that's been real frustrating for us is that we are seeing some. Well, first of all, let me say this. You know, we pivoted to remote learning last March when the shutdown initially happened, and it's been since last March that we've been in this mode. And we had a class of 2020 graduate last spring. We started out school this year. Our teachers have worked hard at being able to best provide a remote learning environment for your kids. But I want you to know that right now, the educational opportunities, there's a lot of missing out going on. We have a new tool that measures student engagement, and it's called Forecast 5. It works with Google Classroom, and we can get data more instantaneously than we used to get. And so right now, we can tell you that 10% of our students still cannot access the internet. One of the things that we started last March was we've worked collaboratively with T-Mobile, and we have right now 400 hotspots, and we've used 340 of those through a T-Mobile grant to provide as many kids as possible with a connection. We're also working to try to secure a US Cellular assistance as well. Some of US Cellular works better out in the western part of our county. So we're looking forward to trying to deal with any kids that still cannot have a hotspot connection with T-Mobile because of topographical challenges. Maybe we'll have a better luck with US Cellular, but 10% of our kids cannot access the internet right now. That's a real problem. And I will tell you that as a school district here in this region, we were the first people to go out last spring and seek a grant opportunity to get as many hotspots as we could. And like I said, we have 400 of them. We know that 87% of our students are currently behind on assignments. We know that our elementary students, if you think back and you know your kids, the fundamentals of learning how to read are something that's pretty tough. And we really emphasize trying to have the best possible class size, the best possible routines and teachers and everybody working together and professional learning communities to really work hard on those building blocks, those basics when kids are in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and they're learning to read. Kids right now in early elementary are not as able to learn foundational concepts that they'll need to be able to move forward, okay? We right now know that only 672 students we have around 5,000 students. So just over 10% of our students have all their assignments up to date. You can see the 87% above, so it's right 13%. Students are all up to date in their assignments. The other thing that we can figure out is what a student's current grade is at any point in time. And so last year, at the end of the first semester, we had 886 F grades, 9th grade through 12th grade. That was last year, at the end of 2019-20. Currently, we have 1,135 F grades, grades 9 through 12. You guys, this is really crucial. We are a 24 credit district. You can't fail a class and be on track to graduate. You have to find an alternative. You have to find something else to get yourself back on track to graduate. This statistic right here is very concerning. And so maybe later in this meeting tonight, high school principal Ben McMurray will have an opportunity to speak to the plan that the high school staff has worked on of bringing high school students back in small groups to work with teachers prior to the end of the semester when those grades become permanent. Some of our students are doing very well in high school. We currently have 42% of the students, we have A's on assignments right now for students at the high school compared to 35% last year. So what we're seeing is some kids doing very, very well, but we're seeing an awful lot of kids not doing well at the 9th grade through 12th grade levels. That's really concerning for us. The need for in-person learning, everyone, is absolutely critical to be able to help our early elementary students especially, but also at-risk students academically at our high school. So we are trying to find a way that we can get all of our kids back eventually. We've worked on this plan, and tonight you're going to see the elements of that plan. And I hope that you will take an opportunity either tonight or if you don't get a chance tonight to ask us questions specific about that plan for your specific students. Thank you very much.
So right now what the district is looking at is a couple of different options. The district would like to offer parents the choice of whether they would like to remain in remote learning or return to school. But remote learning will look different moving forward, and we'll be talking a little bit more in detail about what that looks like. But right now we're looking at a schedule of, today was the first day where DLC and preschool have been back. And in a moment, we'll go to Lucas Jager and see how that went. August 19th, we're looking at kindergarten through 2nd grade. And that will be every day back to the regular schedule, class schedules. October 26th, we're looking at bringing back 3rd and 4th grade every day. And these breakdowns are broken down by what the Yakima Health District has recommended. November 9th, we'd be looking at bringing back 5th through 8th grades. The high school would remain on remote learning, but with small groups coming in through the first semester. And then they would go, yes.
Nicole, if I could interrupt,
Sure.
please, and I hate to do this. So what we could have recommended, a return for grades K through 5 on October 12th. That's what the county is allowing in applications to return to school. It's allowing K5 October 12th, and then it's allowing 6 through 8 November 2nd, and it would allow 9 through 12 November 23rd. But here in West Valley, we wanted to make sure we took an extra week and we're staggering the return more so than the county needed us or required us to do. We're bringing back only kindergarten through 2nd first so that we can make sure everything's fine, everything's working, our protocols and procedures are working, and we've got kids adequately social distanced in the classrooms, kids are wearing masks, all of those routines are being followed. 1 week later, we'll bring in and add 3rd and 4th graders to the elementary. And then November 9th, we'll go 5th through 8th grade, hybrid schedule, 2 days a week in person, 3 days a week away. Go ahead, Nicole.
No, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And again, this schedule has been moving a little bit based on when the health district says things are okay, but also based on feedback from teachers this week in meetings with them and feedback from the board meeting last week. So there's been a lot of feedback and a lot of folks that have been giving some input into how this is going to move forward. Jeremy, would you turn the page, please? So what's that going to look like? So here's what it's going to look like at the elementary level. And I'm going to hand this off to Richard Pryor from Atanum, and he's going to kind of walk through the choices that are available and what they look like at the elementary level. You there, Richard?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
So awesome. So in our face-to-face elementary choice, students will be attending all day. They'll come in and we're still putting everything together for our attestations and managing all that and getting our plans together. When students come in, they will be going to their classroom and they will stay with that teacher, that group, all day long. And depending on the capabilities of every school, because we're all a little different. And so what might be happening in my world at Atanum might look a little different at Mountain View or Cottonwood. And so, it's kind of tough to start comparing some of that. But the consistency will be that they're in a cohort all day long. Specialists then will take them as a cohort. They'll be cohorted for recess. Again, every building will do that a little differently.
Richard, can I interrupt for 1 second? Could you explain cohort to maybe families that don't understand what that phrasing means?
Sure. So if I'm in Mrs. Paganelli's classroom, I will be with Mrs. Paganelli's class, that group, all day long. There'll be some small group pullout, again, within the 6 foot distancing and masks for resource room or lab support. But otherwise, they are with their class, those same kids all day. We'll have in the office, every school will have an isolation room is what it's called, so that if a student comes to us with illness and it's COVID-like symptoms, we can kind of quarantine them in there while we get a hold of the parents and then go through that. I know in our world, pretty much every elementary in the district is pretty good about hand washing, making sure kids are cleaning everything up. Lunch, I think lunch and breakfast will be in the classroom pretty much across the district. And so we're going to really be good about managing those, that proximity in the 6 foot. masks during the day, and really being conscientious about that. If a student ends up going home because of illness, whether it's COVID, it's just like any other illness. We'll provide work for them to do, just like they would if they went home with a cold or the flu, or they had an accident or something like that. So that's for the kids staying at school. And there's a lot more to that. I mean, we can spend probably this whole time talking just about elementary and some of the things we're going to do to hopefully keep kids safe. For the second choice, continuous remote learning, if a parent decides, okay, I don't want to go face-to-face, then they will have a district grade level teacher that will be assigned to them. And so it might not be, if you're at a TANM and you choose to go remote, it may not be like at second grade. Let's say you got a second grader. It might not be a TANM second grade teacher. It will be a second grade teacher in the district, and we'll try to do the best we can to maintain the pacing and support and throughout the year then while we're in this remote learning environment. And you'll return, let's say you decide, okay, either the district says, okay, we're done with remote learning, Department of Health says we're good to go, you'll come back. We'll try to get you back to your originally assigned teacher, but that will also be dependent on space availability. And so if we get new kids coming in and all of a sudden we don't have room in your preferred teacher's classroom, you're gonna have to go to a different classroom. But we will try to have other support for you, but it may not be available. It'll just be on a space availability kind of deal. So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. Is there anything I forgot from, I know I've got some other elementary principal cohorts of my own here, if they've got anything they'd like to add.
Heidi, Eva, Nick, anything to add? We do have some more specifics on the safety protocols coming up here in just a few minutes, but anything you'd like to add about how the difference between the remote and the face-to-face for parents?
And I may have missed this, and if so, I apologize, but there was a lot there. Good job, Richard. But just that the expectation would be that if a family were to sign up to do remote learning, that we're asking them to do that through January 25th. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Thank you, Nick. That's a good clarification.
So just a brief summary, parents that choose the daily face-to-face would be on their regular schedule, a full school day. Students would be in a classroom with a cohort. They would stay with that group, and they would be with the teacher that they were assigned at the beginning of the school year. If you choose the remote option, you'll be learning from a remote district teacher, and that teacher, and if you decide after the semester to come back, the district will try to put you back in with the teacher you were assigned at the beginning of the year if space allows. The other factor is that not all classes are going to be able to be allowed or offered during the remote option. Obviously, PE, music, library, some of those will not be able to function over the remote learning in this environment. LAP, Title I, some of those type of classes will be handled on a case-by-case basis. And if they are offered, they will look a lot different. So anything else you want to add to that? Any of the elementary teachers?
The only thing I'd like to add is that, and I know we're going to get to health and safety, we're all very conscientious about the health and safety here at our schools. And so I know at a TANM, we're going to be having some procedures for drop-off and pickup that are going to look very different than what the community's used to. And I'm sure that's going to be the same for other places too. So just to be aware of that.
And then the return to small groups, and actually, we're going to have, if Russ Tooman could maybe come on and talk about what's this going to look like at the middle school campus? The hybrid option.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So we're looking at, and you can see it on the screen that you're sharing right there, but we'll be essentially on an A/B schedule. So Group A by last name AL will attend Monday and Thursday, and Group B Tuesday, Friday. And then we'll have Wednesdays available for students that need additional support. And so right now, I mean, that's the hybrid. That's the long distance view of hybrid. We're still working on what the actual day-to-day, minute by minute, what that looks like. But essentially, that's what we're headed towards.
So yeah, the hybrid would be the 2 days in-person learning, and then that's going to be determined by the breakdown of the last name. And
Yes.
and then the older student, if there's more than one student with a different last name, we will go with the last name of the oldest student.
Yeah, sorry, that is correct. Yeah.
Anything else there, Russ? Anything to add, Ben? I guess. So the 12th grade, the 9th through 12th would begin on this schedule after the first semester. But right now, 9th through 12th is going to have a slightly different opportunity. And Ben, could you speak to what the 9th through 12th graders are going to do in the first semester?
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Just wanted to specify the reason that we wanted to push it until after first semester is mainly because we're so specialized at the high school. Our programs sometimes are just one teacher, and so having another teacher teach that program is impossible, really. We have so many CHS programs and AP programs up here as well that teachers have to be trained and certified, and trying to get other teachers to be able to teach those courses is near impossible at the high school level. It's a much easier switch for us to go to a hybrid for second semester. And we were also gonna, the opportunity for some of the small groups is also gonna be presented for us in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we can start bringing some kids back, less than 5, and then hopefully open that up a little bit for those students who are struggling. We will be able to provide busing for that as well, so we can bring students to the building, and then we will be able to help them out and hopefully scaffold the needs that they have in their classes.
Ben, could you also speak to, with the hybrid learning, that there are some classes that might not be available if people were to go to the remote option. Could you speak to the remote option and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, for any of our really hands-on programs, our CTE programs, we're going to be able to offer an opportunity for those kids to come in before the semester is over in order to get those hands-on experiences. So that could be labs, it could be assessments. We have lots of certifications in our CTE programs, and we need those kids on site to be able to do that. So those are the kids that we're talking about when we say small groups and trying to work through those problems that we have up here with all of our specialized programs.
So I want to talk a little bit about the safety and operations and kind of what this looks like. And so the district has been working very closely with a lot of different state and local agencies. They've been looking at instruction through OSPI, also working with the Department of Labor and Industries, the Department of Health, and really our local authority is the Yakima Health District. And so they've been working with guidance of the Yakima Health District. This plan that we're going through right now will be submitted to the Yakima Health District to make sure that it meets the criteria of a safe opening. And so that's one of the reasons that we want to go through it and make sure that we have all the details. Some of the important factors that everyone has seen and knows about is that wherever possible, the district is going to be maintaining wearing masks, keeping 6 feet of distance, washing hands, staying home, and some of when people are sick. And so there's going to be a lot more discussion on that. We're going to go to the next page where we're going to talk about this in a little more detail. So as you can see, there's different health protocols required by each of the different authorities. All safe schools are going to be looking at a lot of these different protocols. The attestation, and basically what an attestation, for those that don't understand that, is it's going to be a form that a parent will sign every morning to say that their child is healthy. And anyone who visits the building is going to sign that. And Mary Lou's going to walk through that attestation form with us a little bit further down. We have a sample and she's going to kind of walk through that with us a little bit more. We're going to be maintaining all health and safety requirements. Masks are going to be required within the building, cloth masks. There will be dedicated entry and exit zones, frequent hand washing, physical distancing, social distancing. There's going to be new sanitation and cleaning protocols, especially in high touch areas. There will be new protocols for nutrition services and transportation services, which we'll go through a little bit in a little more detail here in just a bit, and some more ventilation opportunities with outside air exchange. The Department of Health has required that it be a cloth mask and the screening for illness that we already discussed. Remaining home if sick, or if you're exposed to COVID-19 or have symptoms of COVID-19. And we are going to go through a flow chart of how that works here in a little later in the presentation. As much as possible, we'll be maintaining 6-foot physical distance, a lot more focus on hand hygiene, washing and sanitizing hands often, following CDC guidelines for cleaning and disinfecting, separating people with symptoms as soon as they're identified, and again, trying to keep that ventilation going. And then, so the regulations and the protocols that we followed at the district are going to be that parents attest for their students' health, staff attest for their own health, safe zones while entering and exiting the building, maintaining flow of traffic throughout the buildings, washing hands. We've already gone through a lot of these, and we're going to go into a little more detail in on the next page of the plan. So, Jeremy, would you scroll down for me? Thank you. So Mary Lou, could you talk a little bit more about what the health screening will look like when people enter the building and what that's going to look like?
Sure. So we're already actually doing this every day with staff. As they come in, we have Safe Start monitors that ask them these questions if they're showing any symptoms of COVID-19, if they've been in close contact with somebody who has a confirmed COVID-19 in the last 14 days, or if they themselves have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 10 days. We're going to modify that for students. We're not quite sure exactly what method we're going to be looking at, but we're favoring using Skyward as one of the possibilities for screening students that parents can get on Skyward. And there's actually an app that you can put on your phone, and it's a 2-question thing that has your child had the following symptoms, all the COVID-19 symptoms in the last 24 hours, and have they had close contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. So it's a very quick no. And as long as you answer no to both of those questions, your child is good to go to school. And then we realize that there are some people that don't have access to internet and don't have phones. And so for that, we will have a paper kind of attestation with the same questions on it.
So Mary Lou, could you also speak to how this is going to work in the school for, say, how is this going to work at PE and in the classroom? What are some of the safety precautions that are being put in place for those areas?
Well, for PE, they're going to, if it's outside, they're going to try to keep kids 6 feet apart, and they actually will be allowed to take their masks off if they're outside and they're being able to maintain social distance. Same for recess. In the classrooms, they're going to be seated 6 feet apart. We'll have hand washing happening as they're coming in, before they eat, encouraged after they go to the bathroom, and then before they leave for the bus. There'll also be in their classroom not trying to minimize contact with other classrooms so that we're avoiding the spread of any kind of possible germs going around. I don't know if I've covered everything. It seems like we've got a lot of things in place. Masks, of course, all the students will be wearing masks. And then again, we'll be trying to keep sick kids out of school, which will reduce the number of people that actually have COVID coming to school.
So this will look a little different at every school as to how this is going to work on the flow of every day. But basically, a student, when they get to school, the teacher will check to make sure that they have their attestation, or will check their form to make sure that they have not had any symptoms according to their parents, and they have not been exposed to someone that has COVID-19, and they'll be allowed into the classroom. Those that do not have a form, what is going to be the process there in general?
In general, we will need to contact the parent. For most students, the older students, we may allow to attest for themselves and they'll have a temperature check. But the younger students, we will be making a call to the parents. And so we really want to encourage parents to get those attestations filled out, because it will result in a delay of your child getting to their classroom, because we're going to have to take the time to call the parent and get in touch with them. And sometimes we don't get in touch with you right away. So we're really, really encouraging parents to make sure they get that attestation, whichever one they choose, either the paper form or the electronic form, done every day. And that is a requirement from the Department of Health that we need to have that done.
Some have questioned, the students in the hallway as they're going between classes, and there's a lot of them. Could you speak to the 6 feet for 15 minutes?
Yeah, you actually are not considered a close contact of somebody unless you've been within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. So if there is some passing of kids in a hallway, that's actually not considered a close contact. And so for the purposes of quarantining, those students who happen to have momentary breaches in the 6 foot distance will not be considered a close contact and will not be quarantined. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Exactly what I was asking. And then there has been some question about the outdoor play equipment and whether that needs to be sanitized in between use for the younger students, and also why the younger students don't have to wear a mask at PE. Could you address those two?
Well, we're actually saying all students who are outside do not need to wear a mask, because we were going to have them distance 6 feet or more apart. If they're indoors, however, they actually do need to wear a mask during PE. We'll still try to maintain that social distance of 6 feet apart, but indoors is the COVID virus gets transmitted easier inside than it does outside. And so that's why we would have that difference there. As far as the playground equipment goes, the guidance says that we should wipe down hard surfaces, but they're not recommending that we wipe down surfaces like wood or spray grass or anything like that. Those are considered to be low risk for transmission of COVID.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. There may be other questions that come up, but one last thing before I let you off the hook. Can you walk us through this flow chart and what it means?
Sure. These are all the symptoms of COVID, and you'll see that there's a lot of different symptoms here that cover just about anything you could have: fever, chills, muscle, body aches, nausea, vomiting, cough, headache, congestion or runny nose, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, new loss of taste or smell, diarrhea, sore throat, or fatigue. So we're asking that you go through every day and say that your child doesn't have that. If your child does have that, please, please keep them home. We're trying to avoid outbreaks in our schools, and there's no way for anybody to know whether one of these symptoms is just a simple cold or if it's actually COVID until you get tested. So we will recommend testing for your child if they have any one of these symptoms. And if they develop any one of these symptoms at school, we will put them in an isolation room. We're not going to call that an isolation room with the kids. We have various names like the Get Well room, and I have the Blue Sky room at the middle school. But we will put them in there until we can get the parent to come. And so we also urging parents to have a plan for when your child gets sick, that you have somebody that can come promptly to pick that child up. We have limited space in the schools to put children. They're supposed to be at least 6 feet apart in these isolation rooms. And so we have very limited room. And so we just would like parents to be aware that prompt pickup is expected and wanted. And also, if your child is sick, unfortunately, it's not business as usual. They can't come to school with a cold. They can't come to school with a headache that isn't sort of their normal thing. So the only way they could come to school safely is if they have no symptoms and they haven't had any close contact. In that case, they can go to school or work. And this is for the good of the whole school district so that we can remain open for kids. If they have no symptoms, but they had close contact with someone that tested positive for COVID-19, then they can't go to school or work. They can return after quarantining for 14 days. And this is actually from the last close contact you had with that person. So it actually could turn out to be more than 14 days, depending on the situation. If you have no symptoms, but you've tested positive for COVID-19, obviously you can't go to school or work. You can return after quarantining.
And it looks like Mary Lou may have frozen. We love Zoom, don't we? So we don't necessarily need to go through the entire flow chart, but there are some guidelines here.
10 days from.
We had lost you, Mary Lou, for a minute there. You froze up for a second.
Oh, am I back?
You're back now.
Okay. Do you want me to continue, or just people can look at this themselves?
I think we'll just let people go through it and look at it
Okay.
themselves. I think there are going to be specific questions for specific situations. I know when I went to the doctor, I didn't qualify for a test because I had a runny nose or symptoms. So in that case, how are you, if a parent takes their child to the doctor and the doctor says, you don't qualify for a test, this isn't COVID, is there a doctor note? What can a parent do in that circumstance?
Yeah, we have said a child or teacher that have symptoms and they receive a doctor's note verifying that they did not meet the criteria to be tested, that they can return to school, but they have to wait at least 24 hours after their symptoms have passed.
Is there anything else any one of the teachers would like to add to some of the protocols that are going on at the school and some of the things that we went through in this section?
Hi, this is Heidi Sutton, principal of Apple Valley. And just on that, as I'm reading the chat, I think that as we've stated since this summer, our staff will get to know our children and they get to know our families, and they will also treat this with a lot of grace. I'm a person with seasonal allergies myself. If you came in the last 2 days, you might have wondered about that. So we will be able to identify and recognize the children who just have runny noses. We will treat it with care, of course, and we will be concerned to make sure it is not COVID. But I just want to make sure that grace will also be imposed upon this, and not every child will constantly be sent into the isolation or sick room for every runny nose. They come in from recess after a cold day. We will know that that is expected and anticipated as well.
Thank you, Heidi. Jeremy's going to scroll up, and did Eva, Richard, Nick, anything else to add?
I just want to go back because it was brought to my attention that I overlooked and misspoke a little bit. So if you're a remote teacher, or if you're a student going remote, you'll have a district teacher. It may not be a grade level teacher. It's just going to depend on who's available to be able to do that teaching. And then our remote teachers will have a long-term sub in their classrooms. And so that's a twist there that I wasn't thinking about as I was kind of rushing through the explanation. So I just wanted to clarify that, you know, if you choose to go to, I use the example second grade, it may not be a second grade teacher that's teaching that remote classroom. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Along those same lines, if one of the teachers that you were assigned to is moved into the remote pool, you may not have that teacher if
Coming back.
if they have asked to go to remote instead of doing on face-to-face learning as well. So
Right, so you'd come back possibly to that same classroom, but it would be with that long-term sub that's taken over for the remote teacher.
And we'll move past this one as well, Jeremy. We can go down one more. This is just a sample attestation form. The graph didn't show up on there, but it kind of is what we would use if we're not using the online version. But I think the district is leaning towards the online version through Skyward. So, but that would be another. Transportation is another topic that has come up with questions. So I'm going to hand it over to Jamie to kind of walk through what is happening with transportation during this time. Jamie, could you take over this section?
Sure, absolutely. I'm just going to kind of run down the plan that we have in place. We're following several different agencies, OSPI, and you know what we're directed to do by the state. We will start our days out. Our drivers will come in. They get tested at the door. They have to do their own attestation form. We do temperature checks with them as well. They mask up the minute they walk in our door. Once they get out to their bus, it's disinfected at the end of every day, between every run. It's at the end of the day, so when they start their day, their bus is already sanitized. We are going to do things this year with our COVID situation to load kids front to back. And when they exit, load them back to front. When they exit the bus at the schools, they'll get off front to back. So they're not passing each other. They will have assigned seats. They will be in those same seats every day. We will have, in the beginning, just the elementary kids with some select other kids as students as well. They will be required to wear their masks. They will have to have their form filled out either online or with them when they get on the bus. We cannot turn kids away at the school bus stops. We don't know when we're turning them away if they have a parent at home, in their home or not. So that's something they'll have to be isolated and send into the school. We'll make radio calls and phone calls to the school to keep them up to date on that. The drivers know that when their students are on board, they have to wear their mask the entire time. And there won't be any kids allowed to sit right behind the driver. We will encourage family members to sit together and keep those, like I said, the assigned seats. And other than that, that's what's been laid out for us. The state was very gracious in canceling the 6-foot distance rule. We're to maintain that as best we can, but we can also carry a load that we have to for that particular route.
Thank you, Jamie. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Jamie did a great job of explaining it. Jamie's the transportation director, and thank you very much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Good here. And then with child nutrition, do we have someone on from child nutrition, Mike?
Uh,
I thought you're muted, Mike.
Sorry about that. We're going to have Angela Von Essen speak for her child nutrition director. Angela?
Yeah, Magdalene apologizes for not being available tonight, but I have worked closely with Magdalene in creating a plan to where our child nutrition staff are back. They have safety protocols they have to follow, and they're strict by the USDA as well as the state. They do have a process where they will be delivering meals to the classroom and allow for proper hand washing and time in between so that those meals can be delivered. And by using certain tally sheets, our meals will continue to be free through the end of the calendar year, December 31st. And so that will be helpful in the process as well. At the high school secondary level, it's not going to be an issue for a while, but we will have a grab and go type style set up to where we can maintain the social distancing as well.
Thank you, Angela.
Mhm.
So this is actually the end of the presentation and the end of the plan at this point. Oh, wait, did Mike add something to the end? Oh, sports, I'm sorry. Mike, would you like to speak to sports?
I could, or if Ben would like to, he can. From Jeff's perspective, I think he might have more of an insight in what Jeff Jameson, our athletic director, has been working with as far as our league or anything like that. Ben, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I've actually got Jeff with me, so he's going to go ahead and
Okay,
speak to
good.
it. Thanks, Mike.
Great.
With regard to sports, we are currently following the WIAA guidelines and working with the Yakima County Health Department and Ryan Eibach. We're hoping to have some guidance with high school sports by the end of the week. And once that comes out, then we'll be meeting as high school athletic directors with Ryan to kind of see what we can and can't do right now. But until we receive that guidance from the health department, we're in a standstill right now.
Thanks, Ben. Go ahead, scroll down, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, Mike, do you want to jump in a little bit to talk about the spacing in the classrooms and what we're looking at there?
Yeah, one of the reasons that we have made a recommendation or will make a recommendation to the county health department to return kindergarten through second graders every day is because we're really blessed with having pretty nice sized classrooms, but also even more blessed by having low class sizes in most of our elementary classes. So we have the square footage of every room at all of our elementary schools, and we know the class sizes. And so why don't you go ahead and continue to move that down, Jeremy, if you would. And one of the requirements in submitting a plan to the county is to have all of this information with the number of students that are in each class so that we can be able to adequately provide social distancing. Because of this, we are able to plan on returning kindergarten through second grade and eventually adding third and fourth grade every day, every student. And we're really fortunate to be able to make that decision, to be able to do that because of the size of our classrooms as well as the class sizes that we enjoy here in West Valley. It's a goal of ours to have as smaller class sizes as possible, and especially in our primary classes where students are learning to read. We're going to be part of the requirement for an application to the county to return is you have to provide the floor plans of all your buildings and the measurements of all your classrooms. The other thing that you have to do is you have to then be subject to a walkthrough from the health department, and they will come and they will go through with us all of our schools, and they will make sure that we will be able to adequately provide for social distancing. I want to know that we're going to be emphasizing that students wear masks during school, pre-K through 12th grade. And so this safe return plan right here, with all of that information in it, as well as another document that we have that is that is just called the Return to School Planning. It shows the outstanding class sizes that we enjoy here in West Valley. So we're really excited to develop a plan that we can take to the county, meet the county's requirements so that we can return kindergarten through second grade on October 19th. We can return grades 3 and 4 on October 26th. And while this is going on, we're going to be monitoring all of how this is working before we would move 5th through 12th grade on a hybrid schedule here on November 9th. And then later return 9th through 12th grade students in groups of 5 or less to be able to meet with their teacher, students that are needing, that are not performing as well as they should and need classroom learning time and face-to-face time with their teacher. They will get to start coming in as well at 9 through 12 on November 9th, when we bring back grades 5 through 8 on a hybrid schedule. And then January 25th, the start of second semester, grades 9 through 12 will return on a full hybrid schedule. You know, I wanted to comment about a lot of the answers that I was answering in the Q&A about why we aren't having the high school come back on November 30th. You know, if you think about it, we offer a complete comprehensive high school experience for our students. Every type of subject, every type of career and technical education class. We offer all of the fine arts programs. We offer math, science, English, and history, as well as a lot of other courses in our comprehensive high school. And it's an outstanding high school, and with outstanding teachers, outstanding programs for our kids. It's something the West Valley community should be very proud of. But we can't, on November 30th, offer anything close to that remotely. It just can't be done. And so what we can do, though, according to the principal and the team at the high school, we can plan accordingly so that at the semester, when a lot of classes changes and we have opportunities to revise our schedule, we can come much closer to offering a hybrid class plan where in class and remote learning plan for 9th through 12th grade students at the semester break. Ben, if you want to elaborate on that, you can, but it's just impossible to take everything that we currently have and do that on November 30th, 6 weeks before the end of the semester.
Yeah, just to add on to that, Mike, it's just very difficult, especially when you have certain teachers with certain certifications. They have certain classes they can teach, and we can't have all teachers teach that. So if we have a teacher that would like to stay home and is compromised, that teacher might be a language arts teacher. Well, that teacher doesn't really have a discipline in math or a discipline in sports therapy or a discipline in machining. So we can't just take those teachers like you could at a grade level at the elementary school and have them teach that specific grade level of those students that are remote. It would be a very difficult thing to do, and we don't think it's the best program for our students right now.
Thank you, Ben. Much appreciated.
So Mike, in summary, what are you asking parents for right away? What is our next step? Can you walk us through next steps?
Yeah, well, what we want to do, yeah, I will, Nicole. Let me grab this. So what we have to do, everybody, is we want to make this plan be as well understood as possible. We have a safe return plan, and that's what we went with. That's it right there. That's on the screen. And we also have a school planning template. And so we're going to post the safe return plan that we've gone through tonight, and the return to school planning template. We're going to post it on the website, but we're also going to send it to every single family through Skyward. We're going to get it everywhere so that you can have it in your hands. You can actually see it yourself. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have an opportunity to look at this one document I'm looking at right now. You'll have it. And you're going to see those dates again for reopening. And you're going to be able to start to think about, am I going to bring my kid back kindergarten through 2nd grade on October 19th? Or am I going to keep my child at home, okay, and have a remote learning plan? We will know about having a kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade teachers available at that time to provide remote learning for your child if you choose not to come back. But what that does mean is there is no guarantee. There is, in all likelihood, you will not have a teacher that's from your child's school. For example, it may be a kindergarten teacher district-wide offering kindergarten classroom instruction, and a 1st grade teacher offering 1st grade classroom instruction to all 1st grade students who choose remote learning, and 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 4th grade. But what I want every parent to know, and any principal can get on here and speak to this, every single school, every single grade level has all work that is similar in every part of the curriculum, whether it be math or reading or science or social studies. What's taught at Mountain View is taught at Cottonwood. What's taught at White Hollow is taught at Apple Valley. So whether or not, as a parent, you get a grade level teacher who, like I said, in all likelihood, is not from your child's, it's not going to be your child's teacher. It may or not be your child's, a teacher from your child's school. We will tell you that you will get the curriculum delivered that is delivered for kindergarten students in the West Valley School District, or first grade, second grade, third grade, or fourth grade students, delivered as it is in the West Valley School District. So, and Peter Finch, Assistant Superintendent, who oversees this. Peter, if you want to comment on that, you can. But what I will say is that's the way it's going to be for our elementary students. And then that'll be similar when we get to 5th grade through 8th grade. 5th grade is become more and more self-contained. And you know, in 2021, it will be returning to the elementary schools. So you will have a 5th grade teacher if you choose a remote learning option. You will have a 5th grade teacher, and it will, you know, it'll be a 5th grade teacher from our 5th grade, and they're all at the middle school right now, and they will offer 5th grade instruction. We'll have a 6th grade teacher offering 6th grade instruction, or a pair of 6th grade teachers. But what we will do is we will do the best we can to line up teachers to provide the remote learning needs of our 5th grade through 8th grade students whose parents choose the remote learning plan. And that learning begins on November 9th. Students will return on a hybrid schedule, or they'll remain on a remote learning plan. So we had to get this all out there for everybody. We had to get a safe return plan out. We had to get the return to school planning template out to be able to give parents the best possible choice for what they want with their student based on our plan for returning safely and based on understanding what the remote option means. And I will do a couple more things. I will say a couple more things. Information on West Valley remote learning. You will have a West Valley School District teacher, but there will be no guarantee, and I spoke to this earlier, that your child's teacher will be from a certain grade level or subject matter with a remote option. Ideally, we believe right now we will be able to meet K1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If this is a semester decision or choice, so you have to think about this choice as a parent. You make this choice the rest of this semester, and then before next semester, you would make a choice again. The end of the semester is January 22nd, 2021. This would allow for us to make effective plans for materials and supplies for the kids that are face-to-face, that come in face-to-face, as well as having the opportunity to have the best possible materials and supplies available for pickup, planning for social distancing and safety of the people who do return to school. We have to know that. There's also no guarantee on returning to a face-to-face option. If you decide to return to face-to-face, on having the same teacher that a student had prior to move into a remote learning option. There's no guarantee for that. That is ideal, and we would make every effort we could to provide that. But let's say you chose to go in a remote learning option for your 3rd grader, and you do remote learning, and then the hybrid option, the 3rd graders that come in, not hybrid, excuse me, that come in every day, you know, if somebody moves into that district's attendance boundary as a 3rd grader, and they move in and they take that face-to-face option, your student may not get a seat back in that class if you chose the remote learning option. And then certain programs or classes are not available with remote learning option. Right now, Pell is not available in 3rd or 4th grade in a remote learning option. Drone manufacturing in the junior high is only available in a return option. Pre-engineering in the junior high is only available right now for students who come into a face-to-face option in junior high school. College and high school is not available in a remote learning option. Machining, sports therapy, and fire science are other classes that are not available on a remote learning option. So parents will get all of this information, and they will be given the opportunity in a survey by their teachers to make the best choice for their student, for their family as we move forward. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Mike. I am going to go to the phones. There are a couple of people with your hands up that don't have a name. You just have a nickname. If I could have you put a name so I know who we're calling on. I can't call on you with just a nickname. So if you could please change or rename yourself, that would be great. Before I do go to the people with their hands up, I did have one request. Ben, there's a lot of questions coming through on the question and answer about why the high school teachers can't continue the remote option the way that they are right now. Could you address that, please?
Yeah, we've gone through multiple scenarios, and as a staff, we have been stretched thin at this point in time. It's been very difficult for our teachers to keep up. Ideally, if the health department decides to lift the regulations, we would love to come back to school normally, especially in the middle of a semester. That change is going to be much more difficult in the middle of a semester than it would be at second semester. So our focus right now has been doing synchronous assignments, which are face-to-face assignments over Zoom, and then also asynchronous assignments, which is what we've been pushing out by 8 o'clock in the morning every day. I think that we've done a really good job of doing that this year, especially considering what happened last spring and how abrupt this was for our teachers. We gave them a lot of professional development to be able to do the asynchronous learning really, really well. And if we had a group of students that were completely remote, that adds a third subset of students that we would have to concentrate our efforts on. So we would have to focus on the synchronous, then we'd have to focus on the asynchronous, and then we'd also have a group of students that would be remote. And that would be every teacher having to teach all three of those groups of students at the same time, all the way up until the end of the semester. It changes at semester because on January 25th, we can change our schedule and how it is right now to where we could have specific classes during specific periods that would be just for those remote students. So a teacher's schedule wouldn't be as, I guess you could say, as difficult to use in that regard. So that's why the change to second semester makes this a much more fluid change for the high school. And just to keep our learning the way it is right now, we're really proud of what we're pushing out. And if we had to bring everybody back in a hybrid scenario before the semester is over, it would not look like that. And it would be very disappointing for not only our teachers, but just what we're doing as a profession.
Thank you, Ben. I am going to turn to the phones now. And again, there are still a couple of people without a name. If you could please add your name, but I'm going to turn to Linda Mears. You had a question, Linda? Or Lydia, I'm sorry, Lydia.
Sorry, no, I don't have a question.
Oh, sorry, your hand was up. My apologies.
My bad.
No, that's okay. And Jess Bush, did you have a question? There we go. Jeff Bush, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is actually her husband.
Oh, okay, hi.
Yeah, my name's Tyler. I was just curious, for the younger students, my son, for example, is in first grade. What can we expect in terms of calls from the school when they return for kids just doing what kids do, like taking their mask off because it's been on all day, or getting too close to each other or whatever? Like, is that going to be a constant issue, or is that just something you're going to handle in class? And is it really, do you think overall that it's something that we can actually expect the kids to really follow at such a young age?
Hey, can I answer that?
You may, Richard.
Richard Pryor, the principal at Tanum Elementary School, and I'm going to answer it from a couple perspectives if I could. One is we understand their kids. And with all these new rules, we're going to approach it from a teaching perspective. And as Heidi Sutton mentioned, we're going to give them grace and work with them. You know, I have this picture of two kindergarten, 5-year-old boys out there on the playground. And guess what? They're going to want to wrestle. And so we're going to approach it with grace and reminders and things like that. So I would not expect, and I'm talking from my perspective, but I know with the other elementary principals that we've had this conversation many, many times. I don't expect that you're going to see a huge increase in those calls unless we're just end up with a kid and we're looking for a solution. We're not going to be approaching it from, at least initially, and I think for a long time, at any kind of a disciplinary kind of approach. It's going to be with grace, compassion, and understanding. I would like to add that, so I've got two granddaughters that are in Virginia right now, third grader and first grader. They've gone back to school last week in person. They're not having problems with kids in masks. They're having problems with adults in masks. And so just kind of a perspective there and something to be aware of. I was in the DLC classroom, and granted it's only a few kids. They were, they were fumbling with the masks, but they were generally keeping them on the couple times I noticed. But we've got to approach this, I think, with grace, compassion, and understanding for what kids are going through. So I don't know if any of my cohorts would like to add anything to it, but I appreciate the concern, because I think it's important that we're kind.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. Do any of the other elementary principals want to speak to that? Or high school?
This is Eva Les, the principal at Summit View, and I 100% agree. We are going to work with our kids. There's nothing I would like to see more than two kindergartners walking down the hall holding their hands, but it's not going to happen this year. So we'll work with it.
Thanks, Eva. Thank you, Brian.
This is Russ Tuma, principal, Middle Level Campus, and I agree 100%. And I think Dr. Finch has been saying this since this began, that we're going to practice grace and flexibility as we go through this process. And so I think we're obviously, we show that to ourselves, as adults, but we need to show that to the kids, of course, like we always do. But so, there's always room to learn and grow. That's what we do. We're teaching. And so I, for one, am very excited to have kids back in the building, and the opportunity to do this and keep your kids as safe as possible, and our staff as safe as possible is what we intend to do. So it's an exciting opportunity. I know that there's anxiety. I appreciate that, but we are working on the very best plan that we can do to have everybody back and be as safe as possible. So thanks.
Nicole, I think Mike wanted me to speak a little bit about the remote option for elementary students. And so everyone, Peter Finch, Assistant Superintendent for Learning and Teaching, and appreciate all the work that our staff have done to prepare for the remote learning. As we look to return students to school, the remote learning option, there was a really good question that was in the question and answer, and that was, what happens with all these online tools? Do they still have access to the online tools that we've been providing? And the answer is yes. So the students that are in remote learning will be West Valley students, be taught by a West Valley teacher, still enrolled in their home school, and still have access to all the online tools that we have for the site licenses that we have for the different online tools. Of course, one of the main ones is for grades K through 8 is iReady Reading and iReady Math. And that's a specially designed program for each student for their individual pace that they need to get to the grade level standards for their grade, and then of course go beyond the grade level standards if they're capable of that. So students will have access to that online tool as well as many of the other tools that we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Brings up a good point. Did anyone else on the panel have something to add before we turn back to the phones?
I just want to clarify what Peter was referring to. If students stay with the remote teacher from the West Valley School District, if they decide to go to WVA or some other, then they will no longer have access to our resources. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. We want to have students stay with West Valley and stay with the West Valley program. And so the site licenses are based on the school. So they'll still be enrolled in their home school and be part of that West Valley school. If they remove their enrollment from the West Valley school and go into the West Valley Virtual Academy, that's a separate program. Those are still Washington certified teachers, but they're not West Valley teachers. And so at the time of the pandemic, we want to keep kids enrolled in the West Valley schools, taught by West Valley students or West Valley teachers, and then have access to all those online tools. So thank you for the clarification, Eva.
Yeah, thank you, Eva and Peter. And I also wanted to add one other thing. We've gotten a lot of comments about childcare, and we will be meeting with the West Valley Childcare this next week. to be able to offer childcare in our schools as well.
Anyone else from the panel before I turn to the calls? Top of our call list is Brian Mock. Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. So I see that you guys have put a lot of time into the safe return, and I've read over your pamphlet and I've listened to what you guys have talked about. And at the beginning, when Dr. Brophy was talking about, you know, only 10%, you know, the different numbers that he was giving out, is concerning that West Valley is falling that far behind. That's a concern to me. It's a concern to me that you had a plan to start high school, and now again you are telling me that high school is going to be set back at a further date. That concerns me, that we're continually pushing back the high school start. I don't approve of that. I think the longer we wait and to try to return to school, the harder it will be for teachers and staff to get back in. I understand, you know, what's the next excuse to get back to school? I've got a kid that's in junior high and in high school. Now you're telling me my two boys, I'm gonna have one in school and now one's going to be at home. So that creates a hardship for me as a full-time working parent, trying to deal with that and the safety of my son at home alone. These are some things that I'm concerned with. There's the mental health issues of kids staying home alone. I haven't heard you guys address that, but I think that's a big concern to a lot of parents. I'm concerned with that. Well, the high school students. So I'm in favor of getting back to school as soon as we can. And I understand that it'll be a little messy. It may not work perfectly at the beginning. I understand that. I would like to give you grace on that and say, okay, I understand it might be a little messy, but we need to start, and you need to start the plan and get it going. That's my questions or comments. Thank you.
Brian, this is Mike Brophy, and I appreciate your comments. And there is, it's hard to differentiate need between a kindergartner and a high school kid. Everybody has the need to eventually get back to school, and I agree with what you had to say. It's very difficult, and I'll let Ben McMurray jump in here as well. We are dependent on the development of a way to have a schedule for students that choose the remote learning option. We're really dependent, Brian, on teachers that are going to seek an accommodation because of their own health situation. And so we know right now that we're going to be able to line people up pretty well throughout the elementary and into the middle level. But when you have, like I said earlier, Brian, a comprehensive high school with all these offerings, and you know, we schedule kids for the year, and we schedule them for this year back in February and March with their counselors, and they're pretty much locked in to that schedule. Now, we can't just in a quick move, and by the way, my background, I was a high school principal for 11 years before I moved to central office. And I want you to know that you can't just pivot that quick in a high school setting to a completely different schedule, especially when you're not getting any more teachers. You only have the teachers you have now. And so by the semester, because some classes are semester classes and some classes are year-long classes, the high school, according to Mr. McMurray, they will be able to work out a more robust remote learning option for students who choose remote learning. They just can't do it. They can't pivot that quickly when we have students currently dependent on the schedule they signed up for last February and March. It's just too hard, Brian. I sympathize with you. I agree with the points that you made. And I know if Mr. McMurray wants to follow up, can also follow up with this difficulty in providing that type of an opportunity or those choices for high school age students.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and Brian, I completely resonate with your comments. I would add that we talked about small groups, and we do have a consideration for those students that have mental health concerns. So those would be part of the small groups. There were some questions about that in the question and answer section that I tried to answer quickly, but they would definitely be a part of those small groups that we were bringing back to.
It's not just kids with the mental health issues, it's kids that teachers know in their class are falling behind, are not doing well in online learning, and need opportunities to come in and meet with their teacher. And I know that Mr. McMurray and the high school staff will work on how those protocols are going to work, because I'm going to tell you, like I said earlier, these grades that students 9th grade through 12th grade earn, these are permanent grades that will be on their transcript forever. And so we need to give them every opportunity we can to try to remedy any of the shortcomings they're currently experiencing the best we can. It'll be difficult, but we will have to give it a try. And I know Ben and his team will work out how that's going to look. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ben. We're going to go to Melissa Hill now. Melissa, you had a question?
Yeah, I just thank you. I know that this is a lot of work, and I appreciate everything that the teachers have done. We have very much benefited from the distance learning. I feel as if there is a group of families, myself included, that live with family members who are in high-risk categories. Yet it seems very difficult to get from the district a commitment that we will not be forced back into the schools, the distance learning option. Can we get a commitment from the district to say, for this year, for those families who need to make those choices for health reasons, we are not just going to pull the plug on you and force you into some K-12 academy. We stuck with the West Valley School District. I'm a West Valley alum. We have a commitment, and I feel like I would like the district to make that part of this plan, that for those families that have compromised immune systems, that live with elderly parents, that need this option, that you would make a commitment to us as well. And I feel like that's been difficult.
Thank you, Melissa. Mike, would you like to respond? You're muted, Mike.
Actually, Mike, this is Eva. I would like to respond.
Go for it.
Melissa, I have known you and your family for a really long time, and we are committed to you, and we will do what we're going to work with Eva and all of you to make your children's education great. So hang in with us, and whatever online, if you want to stay home and remote, trust the district. We're going to give you what you need. And when you're ready to come back to Summit View, we're going to give you what you need. So I guess I'm getting a little bit emotional here, Melissa, but I mean, I've known you since you were in the 8th grade, or you're a senior in high school, I think, but we can do this and we can make this work.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you very much, Eva. I appreciate your passion and your emotion in your answer. Thank you so much.
We have a question from Addison Sakila Brown. Addison, did you have a question?
I have to promote the balance.
Addison, your Zoom is a little different, so we're going to handle you a little differently. So Addison Brown, Sakila Brown, did you have a question?
Yes, my daughter's a kindergartner, and I was curious, was there going to be any after-school childcare, and what is the ending time at Cottonwood, which is where she's a student at?
You know, earlier, Addison, thank you for your question. This is Mike Brophy, the superintendent. I wanted you to know that a little while ago, I said that we were meeting with the West Valley Child Care this next week to look at how we can outline a child care option for parents. And if Stacy wants to jump in about the time at at Cottonwood, please do, Stacy.
Hi, this is Stacy. Yes, we are working with the West Valley Child Care. The dismissal time will stay the same, and we are very hopeful that they will be able to return when we are in person and occupy the same space. You know, understand that they may have different requirements because of COVID, but we will absolutely invite them back into our space.
And Stacy, what is that end time?
The end time is 3:30.
3:30. Thank you. Addison, did you have another question, or did that? Okay. Josh and Michelle McKimmy, did you have a question? Looks like it. Actually, Danielle Pelage, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering if you have a sense of how many people want to return in person, because I feel like that would have been good information to have before coming up with this plan, because I've heard one or two people here mention family illnesses or compromised health, but I personally don't know anyone who doesn't want their kids to come back, particularly in the high school and upper grades. So I feel like there are other options for parents who want their children to stay remotely. There is the West Valley Virtual Academy. Parents who want their kids in person don't have any other choice to stay with West Valley. So do you have a sense of where the numbers are falling and how many people we're talking about that to accommodate? I mean, if there's only 20 kids in the high school whose parents want them to stay remote and the rest of us all have to wait until January 25th to accommodate them, or are there hundreds, thousands? I mean, what kind of numbers are you talking about in terms of student preference?
Danielle, that's a great question. This is Mike Brophy. I wanted you to know that prior to us surveying people, and we've already had teachers asking in elementary, primarily asking, you know, parents and kids about their intent. But what we wanted to do first was we wanted to provide our safe return plan and then more information for parents, so that parents had all of the information at their disposal before they were asked, because I think asking, there would have been questions that we wouldn't have had information or materials that would have gone home. So we're doing it that way, Danielle. And hopefully that's going to give us an adequate gauge for everything. So thank you. I appreciate your.
Mike, if I could real quick.
So if you find out that almost everyone in high school wants to come back, is it possible to move the timeline up? Because I agree with Brian that, you know, students should be back like tomorrow instead of waiting till January 25th.
Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks. We did do a survey for our Ramstrong students at the high school, and we did it with the students, so that data is obviously a little skewed, and we understand that. But it was almost 50% that said that they would not be coming back. And that a lot of that is because a lot of them are getting jobs right now, which is afternoon. They kind of set this schedule in their mind and they're going to work, they're doing other obligations for their families. So we don't necessarily think it's a small number. We think it's a fairly large number, which means that remote section would be more difficult to kind of figure out in this semester at least.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Did anybody else have a comment on that? Okay. So Josh and Michelle McKimmy.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Brophy, you and I met on September 22nd and discussed my daughter, who's a first grader, and her return. And my question, I hope that you've given my question some thought. I've also emailed this question to the board, and I hope there's maybe a clearer answer now. But my question is about lunch and elementary lunch. And the experts have all stated that wearing a mask is important indoors. And when you and I met, we wore masks. I'm concerned with elementary students unmasking for 30 minutes during lunch. I understand that they'll be 6 feet apart, but they're the same 6 feet apart they are the rest of the day. So I'm wondering if you have an answer on that, if there's science that supports that 30-minute time frame, or what the thought is there.
This is Angela Von Essen with the district, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, and our Child Nutrition Director is not on tonight. However, I've been working with her closely in regards to our child nutrition program. And the intent is to have our students wear the masks at all times. However, when they're eating, they can remove them, and then they'll be able to remove them when they're at recess. Because, and why recess is when they're outside, the health department has allowed us to have them removed at that time. Did I answer your question?
Angela, just to, I think his volume, we turned him off for a second, but I think with the eating inside, so what you're saying is the whole time that they're sitting at their desk for their 30 minutes, they're not going to have their mask off. It's just while they're eating.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn to Derek Nelson. Derek, did you have a question?
I did, and Dr. Brophy had kind of answered one section of it. I had asked about the Safe Start plan and going to the school board on October 5th, and if they had the ability to make changes. My question would be if recommended changes were, or if changes were recommended by the school board, would that, is that form in the school board setting one that we can sign on and voice opinion as well? Or at that point, is that just recommended changes and a vote to approve and or deny? Secondly, thank you teachers, staff, admins, everybody that's worked so hard on this. I'd just like to say we appreciate you all. So that's pretty much what I have.
Thank you very much, Derek. And I think I answered in the chat that the plan that we as an administration recommend to the board for Monday, then the board can take that recommendation. They can do whatever they want with it. They can accept it as it is. They can accept it with amendments. They can deny it. They can table it. They can do whatever they wish. So Derek, I want you to know that there is the possibility of making changes up till the very end before the board makes their decision.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Derek. Nelly Renderos. Nelly, do you have a question?
Maybe I could ask in Spanish just in case. Nelly, ¿tiene una pregunta? Tiene el micrófono apagado. Your microphone is off.
Her microphone should be on now.
Nelly, ¿tiene una pregunta? Do you have a question, Nelly?
She does still show muted.
Yeah.
She has a question in the chat. Se dice, ¿qué pasa si en el invierno regresa la curva, volverían los niños a las clases en casa?
Oh, that's not Yeli Romero. That's not Nelly.
El nombre es Nayeli Romero.
Yes, but that's not the gal that has the question here, Nelly Renderos.
We have her unmuted. I'm not sure.
Nelly, ¿si nos puedes escuchar? Sorry, it doesn't seem like.
I wonder if is she on the other channel maybe? Because we have a Spanish channel that is being broadcast simultaneously.
Let me check with the Spanish channel really quickly.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, que se ve. It looks like she was connecting. Nelly, ¿nos puedes escuchar? Si tienes una pregunta también en español, lo que podemos hacer que si la pones en el foro acá de las preguntas y las respuestas, puedo tomar nota de tu pregunta y luego podemos encontrar una solución o responderte lo más pronto que podemos. I just mentioned if she has a question that maybe she could just put it in the Q&A, even if it's in Spanish. I'm typing those in as I can.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on, and if she does, we'll hope to hear from her in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you. Keith Wick is next on our list.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I also want to say I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I've discussed with especially Mrs. Perez, and it's very helpful for my 5th grader. It's kind of been a struggle going in. That being said, I'm glad I don't have an elementary student. But that also being said, they're bringing back elementary students, and I can understand that. There's a definite need there. However, with high school students having such an obligation to their grades, and some of them falling behind, and I believe mine probably is one, is there an opportunity for, you have a later, probably the latest modified start with high school, but is there an opportunity for a sort of modified start to pull in at least one-on-one or small groups for the ones that are struggling? It's important for everybody to get back to school eventually, for all the reasons that have been expressed, but just to try to prevent some of these children from falling out. I saw some research out of the Yakima School District, and it doesn't look good as far as students staying with it when they're getting really frustrated, and I'm considering that with my thoughts. It's hard to keep the high schoolers with it when they're about at their wits' end. Do we have a kind of a modified option for that might start earlier?
Keith, are you talking specifically about high school age or middle level, or?
Well, I have one in every level, but my current question is, my 8th grader is doing quite well, but my high schooler is not keeping up quite well. So my question is specifically for the high schoolers at this time.
Yeah, I know we said earlier, and Ben McMurray can certainly jump in, but I know that Ben and his team will develop a way to offer students the possibility to return in small groups. You know, the state has allowed return in small groups of less than 5 students for special ed, English learners. The term they use is students the furthest from educational justice. But, you know, it doesn't preclude us from also bringing back students that just are not performing well in an online learning environment. And so I know Ben and his team are going to look at how they can possibly address that. Ben, if you'd like to.
Yeah, we're really going to look at data from last school year and before the break, and see like what students were successful and how that happened. We also want to look at internet access, see if those students are still struggling with internet access, because some of our hotspots aren't necessarily helping. I do want to state though, the end of the semester is 28 days from November 30th to the end of the semester, and that's 28 school days. That remotely would be 12 hours of contact time that our teachers and students could have together. And if we go back to a hybrid schedule that we're proposing, it would only be 6 hours of actual face time with each of their teachers until the semester. So we're also concerned about the lack of face time that we've got with these kids, whether it's remote or in person. So that's something else that we're trying to consider, but I'm sure if your student is struggling in this circumstance, we're going to do the best we can to find a small group for them and bus them and make it better.
Thank you, Ben.
Amy French, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I'm also a parent. I'm a staff member, but I'm also a parent of a high school student. And I'm very frustrated with the continual change of dates for the high school students. When we first came back, we were told that all the students would be returning hopefully November 1st. And just this past Tuesday, when we were having our staff meeting, it was November 30th. And now we're being told it's going to be January 25th. And that's 10 months since our kids were in a school building. I just don't think the social emotional needs of our high school students are being taken seriously enough. I understand it's going to be hard, but none of this has been easy. I work at a school with 2 elementaries in one building, and that's been far from easy. I've seen our principals jump through unbelievable hoops to make things work in that circumstance. I'm very frustrated that it's being treated as if what's being done for them is really, I know the teachers are working hard, but I heard a lot of complaints at our staff meeting that it just was too hard, or they weren't asked what their preferences were or anything. And I just, now suddenly it's just being blamed on the fact of, it would be hard to change the schedule. And I know it would be hard, but these kids they have more than just the need to be in school with a teacher learning, being taught face to face. They need some semblance of normalcy in our life. The suicide rates are up in Yakima County. I don't feel like it's being taken seriously enough. I'm really concerned about the students, the high school students, being pawned off until next semester. And at that point, they're only going to be going back for 2 days a week. I just think it needs to be considered more seriously.
Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, not at all. I mean, that's why our school board is here, is to hear your concerns. So thank you.
Thank you. Juan Jimenez?
Yes. So I just wanted to just mention that if you guys have considered that there's only one hospital in the community, and actually they were on the paper today for having a shortage on staff.
Yeah, Mary Lou, do you want to respond to the health district's decision and why they determined that now is okay for us to go back to schools?
Sure. Our hospitalization rates actually have been way down since the summer. They're at very manageable levels right now. The complaint that was filed in the paper actually was done in August, which was at a time that we were having a lot more hospitalizations for COVID. But I can assure you that the health district, the Yakima County Health District, will be watching numbers, including case counts, hospitalizations, the number of positive tests being brought back. And if they think that we're going in a trend that they don't like, they actually will end up closing us down again. So they're going to be watching like a hawk. We're all hoping that that doesn't happen, and that's one of the reasons we're trying to have so many safeguards that help to slow the spread. So we're hoping that doesn't happen, but I think that they would definitely close us down before we got to that point again.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Xochitl Lopez?
Sí, no sé si me pueden escuchar.
Sí, yo la puedo escuchar y puedo traducir por usted, Xochitl.
Ok, mi pregunta es respecto a, dicen que el día 5 de octubre van a tener la mesa directiva, la junta. La decisión de regresar, de regresar los niños a la escuela, la va a tomar la mesa directiva en cuanto a lo que ellos piensen, o va a haber una votación de los padres y ellos van a decidir cuántos padres votan porque regresen, o cómo van a hacer el proceso, la mesa directiva, para dar la calificación de que en luz verde o en luz roja que esté en stand-by.
Okay, so her question is that on the board meeting that is scheduled for October 5th, she would like to know if it's going to be something that the board decides to go ahead and decide if the children will return, or is this going to be something that parents can vote and that the board will take into account the parents' votes as to whether they want their kids to return to schools or if they want them to stay at remote learning?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. This plan will be recommended to the board by the administration on Monday night. The meeting's at 7 o'clock. There's a discussion period for the board themselves And then there is a discussion period for anyone else who would like to discuss, have an opportunity to discuss this. There'll be an open forum period again. And then there will be one more opportunity for the board to discuss this based on input they've received. And then they will take, we're asking them to take action on the plan. So it's the 5 board members, the ones that get to vote.
Cole,
Michael?
can I ask, can I put Lucas Jager on the spot and ask him how today went with bringing DLC kids back, or some of the DLC kids back, please?
Yes, you could absolutely put me on the spot. Yeah, so we started our developmental learning center in our preschool today. And for those of you that don't know, our developmental learning center serves students with moderate to severe disabilities. And also, if you hear some weird noises right now, my dog just decided to come in and pay me a visit. So the sounds are all from my dog there. But yeah, we had a good day. Our coordinators, we have 3 special services coordinators who went out and visited all the classrooms. I was able to talk to most of the teachers by phone. It was a good day overall. We had a couple minor bumps in the road, but nothing that we weren't able to take care of quickly. Yeah, it was a good day. It was a good day. Everybody had fun. The kids learned. The teachers were excited to have the kids back in the class. It was all good.
Thank you, Lucas.
Michael, to the last caller's question, did you want to talk through it all, what the process is going to be for the board on? I know Mike kind of did, but.
Sure. I mean, I don't think there's too much more to say other than just in terms of the process. We asked even before the health district came out with the recommendation that they just came out with on Monday. The board had already asked Dr. Brophy and the administrative team to put together this kind of a plan to come back to an in-person learning environment for all of our students in the district. And last week when we met as a board, we wanted to take some more input in. We were not ready to act on that plan. And that is why we're here tonight. Is it resulted in a couple of very important forms that the board has asked for. And one of them is happening tonight. We did one with staff members on Tuesday, and every board member is on tonight. And I know listening, and I know all the board members really well, and we're listening and considering. And I know that we've all been actively involved in conversations with administration throughout the week. And we're listening tonight. So we're taking it all in. I know I'm looking forward to the discussion on Monday night, and hopefully being able to move forward. So we're gonna, if you have something, you want to say something, I know that the board members we've all received numerous emails and phone calls. And I know all of the board members are actively engaged on probably what is the most important decision that we will make in our tenure as board members. So we're all in, we're all engaged, and we're all trying to do the very best that we can. And I know that this board takes this decision very, very seriously.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh,
I'm going to call on Nelly Renderos because we weren't able to connect with her last time. And just so everyone knows, the questions are being answered on the opposite channel in Spanish, but the calls come in on this line. So as they're asking and as our panel is responding, Minerva is translating that on the other line, just so they are being responded to in Spanish. Nelly, did you have a question?
Hi, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I want to thank everybody that's working on this plan. It's something that is very dear to my heart, and it's something that we have to consider, not as something that can be taken lightly, but as something that we have never seen it in our history, in my entire life, or I'm sure in your life, or even your parents' life. And so my question was, I would like to know how the elementary teachers feel at White Hollow. Do they feel comfortable with having these kids back? Because I know that the winter's coming, and I said this before, there's a higher number of cases of flu, that could be related to COVID. And as a matter of fact, there is. They just said that 28 states have seen an increase in COVID-19 cases. And so that was the reason why I would actually prefer a hybrid model to have my kids back to school, just because I would like to make sure that things will fall, to the best possible way. But I don't know how parents feel about that. And I also want to know if the teachers are comfortable with having all the kids back. And if somebody from White Hollow can answer that, that would be great. Thank you.
Does one of the other elementary principals want to respond real quickly about how things are going, how it's going in your schools?
Well, I'll talk for Atanum. We've been meeting and working together, trying to put together a plan from kids getting dropped off to kids getting picked up at the end of the day. And I've got a great staff of folks that have been working to put it together, social distance in the classroom. We're really concerned about student safety, health safety, our teacher health safety, and we're doing what we can with the Department of Health, working with Alyssa, which is the nurse assigned to our school, to make sure what we're doing. I'm not saying everything, all our questions are answered. We had some staff meetings today and some really good questions came up. What abouts? And so we'll be following up with those. And, what ifs, we're not going to have every answer to every what if. It's kind of impossible. And so some of this we'll be asking, okay, we've had this situation come up. How do you want us to deal with it? What's the next procedure? And so, we can't have everything, but I think in a broad stroke and even some of our details, I'm pretty proud of the work my staff has done, that Atanum's done, to put together a plan that'll keep kids safe and address a lot of our concerns. Again, it's not perfect. We still got some questions in some areas we have to work on, but we're going to do it, and we'll do it together. Just like every school in this district will work together.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that.
Just to add to that, I know that Mr. Ferguson would love to be able to address everyone too, and he's not able to tonight, but I'm very focused on what does the end game look like for this whole pandemic. I think we all are. And what does that look like? At what point do we all feel like, okay, we're ready to go back, to life being normal? And we don't know that answer right now. And we watch this as closely as possible. I mean, everything that you're looking at from the health department numbers, we're looking at every day. Every recommendation that changes day to day on student safety, we're watching that and we're updating our procedures as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world right now where we can say, we can guarantee that we're going to go back and everything is going to be as safe as possible. The only thing we can guarantee is that we can follow the health department's recommendations, their protocols, and that we can enforce that in our buildings. As far as, answering how do teachers feel about this, that's difficult to do because you're asking, what does this look like for hundreds of individuals in our district? And it's very personal to every teacher, and they each are in their own situations, and they have their own concerns. And I can tell you that there are a lot of teachers who are seeing how difficult this is for many of their kids with unstable internet or with difficult situations to learn at home. And they're very, they're really feeling like they need to get kids back in the building, but it's very different for everyone. But I can tell you that we have teachers in every building in this district who are completely focused on doing the best thing for our kids. And whether that be in the remote setting or at school, we're going to offer great programs. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Nick. Mike, we do have about 8 callers on the line and we are at 9:04. Do we want to keep going for a little bit and then after we get through these ones that are up, and the list is growing, so we'll have to at some point cut it off, but how would you like to proceed? Well, I'm going to go ahead and call on, I have somebody who just has the initials AS, and so if you could change your name, put a full name there, I can call on you, but I can't call on you with just the AS. So Travis C.
Yes, yes. This is Travis Sear. I'm curious as to what happens if an outbreak happens in the school. What protocols are in place to deal with that, and what is the threshold to consider it an outbreak, and what happens if an outbreak was to happen?
Travis, that's a great question. And I think that's the question everybody wants an answer to. I want you to know I'm going to let Mary Lou comment on that, but Travis, in the packet you will receive, there is a flow chart that will take you through what happens when that exact thing you asked about happens. There's a flow chart that we will act upon.
So Mike, in addition to the flow chart, I know there was some guidance in some of the documents that we looked at that talked about when it's considered beyond an individual, but when would it go to a class being quarantined and when it would go to a school being quarantined. Do you want to address that at all, or Mary Lou?
Yeah, I actually pulled it up right here because I don't carry all that stuff in my head. But so an outbreak is considered when the following have been met. There's 2 or more positive COVID-19 cases among students or staff, and the cases have a symptom onset within a 14-day period of each other, and they are linked, meaning that they think that the transmission occurred at school, not somewhere else. The cases don't share a household, and the cases are not identified as close contacts. They will close an entire classroom for 14 days if 2 or more laboratory positive COVID-19 cases occur within that classroom within a 14-day period. They'll close a school when 2 or more classrooms are dismissed due to outbreaks. With schools that have 10 or fewer classrooms, if 10% or more of classrooms are dismissed due to outbreaks in schools with greater than 10 classrooms, they'll close the school. And they'll also close the school if the school can't function due to insufficient teaching or support staff. So it's very complex, but they do have plans for when classrooms and schools will need to close.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Bob Balderson?
Yes, thank you. I have a multi-part question. Today I sent a letter to the board detailing the current numbers indicate that through a data gathered by Georgia Tech and run through a binomial distribution model, there's a 68% likelihood that 20 or more K-8 classrooms out of 150 in the West Valley School District will have a positive case if face-to-face teaching were to resume today. My question has to do with reporting of cases from the health district. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. Specifically, is the Yakima Health District compelled to give numbers to the West Valley School District in regard to students or families of students that have tested positive, even though we are not currently in a face-to-face model? It seems to me that without this data of what the actual West Valley School District community spread is, that we are fumbling around in the dark with regard to making plans for returning in a face-to-face model.
Looks like Mary Lou's ready.
The Yakima Health District actually does have I'm echoing, but at any rate, it has some data that's actually on the website, available on the website, and it is broken down by zip codes. So you can go look at those figures and see exactly what our transmission rate is within those zip codes. And the West Valley School District has lower transmission rates than some of the other areas in Yakima County. And I'm not sure if I answered all your questions. They aren't telling us about positive cases that are occurring among school-age children in the West Valley School District right now. We can hear about those because sometimes parents will tell us about those. And I will have to say it's not at zero, but I don't think it's going to be at zero. So we have to move forward at a certain level.
And if we did cut you off too quick, just please put your hand back up again. And thank you, Mary Lou, appreciate that. Erin?
Hi, this is actually Reese Eulis on Erin's phone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I want to acknowledge that you guys already made a point to say that high school students' grades specifically, and we all know this, are a permanent record on their transcript. And with that being said, we know that high school students' grades matter in terms of their post-secondary education and their life endeavors. And this isn't meant to come across as any grade level is more important than another. But with that being said, why are high school students the last to go to school when their grades are weighted the most and they have the least amount of time to catch up? Because it's very apparent that not all children are successful in this remote learning model. And now they're going to have the least amount of time and have the biggest impact in their future.
Good question, Erin. I'll answer that real quick. The initial plan that Yakima County Health District put out will allow school districts in Yakima County to apply for application to reopen school as early as October 12th for grades K through 5. 3 weeks after that, grades 6 through 8. And 3 weeks after that, grades 9 through 12. So that was initiated by the Yakima County Health District. Those are the rules we're playing inside.
Thank you, Mike. Christine Murphy-Schweitzer.
Hi. So I am a parent and a teacher in the district, and I feel like we have spent a lot of time going around and around about why not high school, why not high school, and I think it's been, as Mike just stated, that this plan was put forth by the health district. I have heard, some whispers from families and people who are pretty dissatisfied with, it seems, the staff at the high school, as if we don't want our kids back. And Peter mentioned it earlier, and I want to thank Ben McMurray and Nick Hartman for really kind of making it very clear that we all do want our students back. And that these decisions are not just based on the health district, but these are also decisions that are student-centered. We have, on average, in the secondary level, 150 kids. Within that schedule, we've got, as Ben McMurray mentioned, CTE, college and the high school, specialized teachers. I can't, as an English teacher, I cannot teach math, I cannot teach science. It's different at the lower levels, where you have one teacher who's in charge of all of the things, which I can't imagine having to do. That is they're incredibly talented. God bless elementary school teachers. But I think we need to just keep in mind that as secondary teachers, we really do want our kids back. And I recognize that, and I appreciate the comments from parents who are families who are thanking the teachers for all of their hard work, but I'm I spend about 60 hours a week getting ready for my classes and grading my classes and accommodating my students who can't be asynchronous or synchronous all at the same time. And in fact, I'm not even, I'm in Tacoma for a doctor's appointment, and I'm still here on, on this call working. I brought all my stuff with me. I'm planning, and I just feel that while it is extremely important that we take into consideration the grades and the credits that students need to graduate, and their mental health obviously is critical. But I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the mental health of us and the staff that are torn between keeping our family safe and keeping our kids in school as well. I have 2 kids in the district, and I just want to thank the people who have really taken the time to reach out to those of us that are, to all of us who are working really hard. But just understand that as a high school teacher, we really do want our kids back. And these choices really, truly are student-centered. It's not because we don't want to be there, and we're not being difficult about whether or not we want to come back to school. It has everything to do with what is best for students.
Thank you so much, Christine. That's a good point. Did you have a question on your personal level, or were you just wanting?
No, I was just kind of addressing some of the things that, some of the questions that other people had that have been answered several times by Mike and by Mr. McMurray about why high school is later on the list, and it really is health district driven.
It's good to have a teacher perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. Nicole, we're going to go till 9:30.
Okay. Right now, I'm going to call on Maura.
Hello?
Hello, Maura.
Okay, hi, this is Josette and Gabe Mora, and I asked really early in the chat how to change our name, but we couldn't figure out to do it.
Okay.
So anyways, I'm Josette, and my husband Gabe is here with me, and we have a second grader at Cottonwood and a 9th grader. And first, we would just like to say that we disagree with the district surveying our 14-year-old as to whether or not he would like to return to in-person school. We don't feel that that was an appropriate decision for him to be making for our family. So I hope that the school board will consider that and maybe resend or send out a survey to high school students regarding that. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and Ben will probably address that. That was more of a poll, I think, through Rand. The actual official one will be coming out next week for parents.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then I think because our name isn't being shown correctly, like some of our questions weren't answered, but it's been really a great amount of information that's happening in the chat. And I think that a lot of the questions that we still have probably already been asked and answered. And I'm just wondering if we'll be able to get a copy of the chat or if that'll be sent out again.
Yeah, I am planning on posting all of the questions that came up in this forum, as well as many as I can share from the staff forum. Just so that people know the questions that have been asked and answered and kind of can see some of the discussions, maybe more in the format of themes of things that were addressed and answers under those themes than the individual questions, but we will be sharing those, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. And thank you to all of you for your hard work.
Thank you so much, Josette. I'm gonna call on AS because I'm wondering if maybe they just can't change their name. So AS. Do you have a question? Yesenia, could you ask if they have a question?
Si tiene una pregunta la persona que nos puede escuchar con los iniciales de AS. Señor, señora, ¿tiene una pregunta?
They may have just gotten disconnected. Well, if they raise their hand again, we'll be sure to call on them. Bob Balderston, I'm sorry, we cut you off earlier.
Yes, I don't believe I got a direct answer to my question, so I'll say it a little more directly. This question is being asked of the health department personnel. My question is it fair to say that the Yakima Health Department is not compelled to notify West Valley School District personnel of positive cases with regard to the families of students or students who are directly enrolled in the West Valley School District when face-to-face instruction is not in session? If that is true, if that is the case, my question is why? Because school personnel need to know that data in order to accurately determine the risk for both school district personnel and the students who are in their charge. And as I said earlier, my analysis indicates that there's a 68% likelihood that 20 or more K-8 classrooms would in fact have one or more COVID cases if face-to-face instruction were to resume today.
The health district is not giving us that information now. However, when we start our in-person school, we will be in close contact with them about all positive cases that occur. They will be telling us about all positive cases that occur in school-age kids. And if we happen to find out about one, we will also be in contact with them. But they are looking at the county as a whole to make their decisions based on the numbers that they're seeing now and the hospitalizations that they're seeing now. So they're not looking at specific school district positive cases. So I guess the answer is no, they're not doing that.
One other question, Mary Lou. In the flow chart, I believe it was stated that if there is a positive case at a school, that there will be notification to the health district as well as to any families within once in face-to-face learning starts.
That is correct. We already have letters drafted up that we will email out if there is a positive case. So that is the case.
Thank you. Mike, did you have anything else to add to that?
You do have, I don't know if maybe you.
No. Oh.
I'm sorry, there is one more teacher that has her hand, or a person that has her hand up.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Comstadius.
I teach at White Hollow, and so I thought I would kind of try to answer Nellie's question earlier, where she was asking somebody from White Hollow. Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Nellie, I'm your son's teacher, you know that. So I can share with you a little bit about what my personal opinion is, and then I can share with you what I do know about the staff. You had asked how the White Hollow teachers are feeling about returning. And I have to say that basically there's very mixed feelings about opening. There are some teachers who are ready to start as soon as possible. There are some who are not there yet. So there definitely is not one answer. Specifically for me, you asked about like the hybrid option. If I were queen of the world right now, I would have chosen to come back in an AM, PM situation, a hybrid at the elementary level. Part of that reasoning is because I am looking at how the kids have not been in the same regular school day for such a long time that our afternoons are going to be extremely hard for the teacher and for the kids. And in my perspective, I felt like, well, if we came back for half of the day and then the other half of the kids came back the other half of the day, that would be a really good transition, as well as being able to allow us to keep the 6-foot distance more easily, because that will be difficult. So no matter what happens, we will obviously do what we need to be doing and keep the kids as safe as we can. But yes, if I was queen of the world, I would have gone hybrid as well. But apparently I'm not. So hopefully that helps to answer Nellie's question a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Comstadius. And I had gone to Bob just because we had cut him off earlier, so I wasn't trying to I didn't mean to miss your question. That's all we have on the hands up right now, Mike, so we are at the end of that portion. Do you have anything you'd like to, or does anyone on the panel have anything they'd like to share before we end for the day?
I'd like to just thank you, Nicole, for doing such an outstanding job again. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of our panelists for taking time tonight to join us and to help be here to provide answers and clarification for all of the people who had questions, comments, and concerns. Our next time we'll be together will be Monday night. We will have a board meeting, same format. And like I said, there will be a period for discussion just by board members, a period of discussion by community and parents, and then another opportunity for the board to comment based on what they heard from the people who made comments. And then we will be asking the board to move forward and approve a recommendation for this plan that you've seen tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. We're excited to get our kids back, but we want to make sure we do it in the right way and it's safe for everybody involved. So thanks again. Anybody else on the panel who wants to say anything, you're more than welcome to.
Hi, Dr. Brophy, this is Mark Strong. I just want to say thanks to all those parents and all the stakeholders, everyone who sent messages. I just wanted everyone to know that, and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure many of the other board members feel the same way. I definitely appreciate all the comments I've received, all the messages. I read every one of them. I just wanted to assure everyone that I pay attention to those. And your input does matter. It helps me tremendously in trying to come to terms and grapple with this very difficult decision we have to make. So please don't hesitate to send those messages and don't think they fall on deaf ears, because we do pay attention. So thank you.
Mike, if I could, I just would like to say thank you to Minerva Parda for 2.5 hours of simultaneous translation. That's a lot of work. And thank you to Jasenia as well for helping with the questions and translating those questions. So thank you.
Well, again, thank everyone very much. We're going to try to get as many of these questions answered as possible. For those that still have those that weren't answered in the question and answer, we'll follow up with an email when we do have an answer. In addition to that, we will be posting responses to the questions when we have them all compiled, and we'll put those out with the Safe Start plan as soon as we're able. So Safe Start plan will be posted early tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get the plan out and posted for all of our parents. It'll be updated on the website. The one on the website's not as current as the new one, the one we have right now that we've been citing tonight. But we will ask Nicole and Jeremy to get that posted and out on Skyward to everybody. Thank you.
Nicole, thank you for answering all of the questions in the chat. I know we all tried, and there was a lot of concern about whether or not those questions would be seen and responded to. So thank you.
Yep, we'll get those out. Thank you, Eva. Well, good night, everyone. Have a nice evening.